The frozen moon wasn't supposed to kill them this quickly. Serge pressed both palms against the observation window, feeling cold seep through reinforced glass that should have been warm. Outside, Rimhold's surface stretched in endless white beneath twin ice rings that caught distant starlight and shattered it into fragments. Beautiful, lethal, the kind of place that swallowed careless researchers whole and left nothing but crystallized regret. Her breath misted the glass. Behind her, environmental controls hummed with the desperation of machinery pushed past design limits. 47 below. 48. The numbers climbed in the wrong direction, while their heating array struggled against atmospheric conditions that shouldn't exist according to every model they'd run before landing. 6 research stations had tried Rimhold before this one. None lasted a full rotation. Serge had volunteered anyway because her species valued knowledge more than comfort, and because frozen death seemed preferable to another decade cataloging dust samples on temperate worlds where nothing ever changed. The Vector prized logic, efficiency, survival through calculated risk. They'd colonized 17 systems by measuring variables and trusting mathematics. Then humanity joined the galactic community, and suddenly nothing added up. Movement caught her eye. She leaned forward, chromatophores rippling confusion across her shoulders. Someone walked across the surface. No environmental suit, just thermal wear and what looked like standard boots leaving prints in permafrost. The figure moved steadily toward the eastern ridge where ice formations twisted into impossible shapes. Her heart stuttered. Donovan. Of course it was Donovan. She grabbed her tablet and pulled up his biosigns. The display flickered, then stabilized. Core temperature 98.6. Respirations 12 per minute. Heart rate steady at 72. All baseline human normal despite exterior temperature that should have triggered hypothermia 3 minutes ago. Serge tapped the comm unit. "What are you doing?" His voice came back warm, casual, like he'd just stepped into a garden instead of walking across a moon that killed through touch. "Checking the secondary array. Thought I saw some ice buildup on the thermal sensors. You're not wearing a suit. Didn't need one. It's only 48 below." Only. She watched him crouch near a sensor cluster, breath visible in rapid clouds that dissipated into vacuum-thin atmosphere. Gloved hands worked with practiced efficiency, clearing frost from delicate equipment that her species would have approached with full environmental protection and backup teams on standby. Her tablet updated. Core temperature 98.4. His body had dropped 0.2 degrees. That was all. 0.2 degrees against cold that should have killed him. She'd been studying humans for 6 months. Understood the biology in theory, their ridiculous homeostasis, the way they maintained function in conditions that sent other species into shock. Theory felt different than watching it happen, than seeing someone treat a frozen hellscape like a minor inconvenience. "Get back inside. In a minute. I want to show you something." "Show me what?" "The ice caves. Found them yesterday during the geological survey. They're incredible." Her chromatophores flashed alarm colors. "You want me to go outside?" "Not right now, when you're ready. But you should see them, Serge. The formations, the way light refracts through the ice, I can review your footage. It's not the same." He stood, brushing frost from his knees, and turned back toward the station. Even at this distance, she could see the smile that had become familiar over their months working together. Open, genuine, the kind of expression that didn't calculate advantage or measure responses. Humans did that. Smiled because they felt like it, touched because contact felt good, formed connections without assessing strategic value first. Pack bonding, they called it. Serge called it dangerous. She watched him approach the airlock, biosigns still impossibly stable. When the inner door cycled and he stepped into the staging area, she was waiting. Frost clung to his dark hair, melting slowly in the warmer air. His cheeks were flushed, skin pink from cold exposure that should have caused frostbite. He pulled off his gloves and flexed his fingers. "See, everything's fine. Define fine. 10 fingers, 10 toes, all major systems functional." He grinned and held up both hands, wiggling them for emphasis. "Your core temperature dropped by 0.2 degrees. That's normal variability. Normal for walking across a frozen moon in inadequate gear." His expression softened. He moved closer, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his brown eyes, smell the sharp cold still clinging to his thermal jacket. I grew up in Minnesota. That's a state on Earth where winter temperatures hit 30 below regularly. My body knows how to handle this. It's what we're built for. You're built for a death world. Yeah, he said it without pride or shame, just fact. We are, she wanted to step back, maintain professional distance. Her chromatophores had other ideas, rippling patterns that signaled interest despite better judgment. Humans didn't read vector coloration, but Donovan had learned some of the basics. His eyes tracked the flush spreading across her shoulders. You're scared of me. I'm concerned about proper safety protocols. Liar. The word landed gentle, almost teasing. He was right. She was terrified. Not of him exactly, but of what he represented. Biology that violated physical laws, a species that shrugged at conditions that killed, and worst of all, the way her pulse quickened when he stood this close. The station groaned. Somewhere in the infrastructure, metal contracted in cold that shouldn't penetrate this deep. Their heating array was failing faster than projections suggested. We need to check the primary systems, she said, grateful for the distraction. I'll suit up, you just came in, and now I'm going back out. Someone has to fix whatever's causing the temperature drop. Let me run diagnostics first. They spent the next hour in companionable silence, her analyzing data streams while he prepped equipment. The heating array showed stress fractures in 3 critical junctions. Not catastrophic yet, but trending toward failure within 20 hours. Serge pulled up repair protocols. Standard procedure required environmental suits, safety tethers, backup teams. They had none of that. Just 2 researchers on a moon that had killed everyone before them, trying to survive long enough to finish work that mattered. I can handle the external repairs, Donovan said, reading her screen. Those fractures need welding and sealant. Maybe 4 hours of work, 4 hours outside. I've done longer. In Minnesota, in Antarctica, actually. Research station lost heat during a blizzard. We worked outside in rotating shifts until we got systems back online. How cold? 60 below with wind chill. He said it casually, like describing a mildly inconvenient weather pattern instead of conditions that would crystallize vector blood in seconds. Her tablet updated again. She'd set continuous monitoring on his biosigns after watching him walk outside. Now the data painted an impossible picture, cellular adaptation in real time. Capillary networks rerouting blood flow to maintain core heat, metabolic processes, adjusting to conserve energy while sustaining function. Evolution shouldn't work this fast. We're good at not dying, he said, glancing at her screen. It's kind of our thing. This isn't evolution. This is active biological response. Yeah, our bodies do that, in minutes, sometimes seconds. He pulled thermal gear from storage, checking seals and fasteners with practiced efficiency. Remember that lung infection I had last month, the one that should have required antibiotics? It resolved in 3 days. My immune system figured out the pathogen and adapted. Happens faster when we're stressed or threatened. Rimhold is threatening you. Rimhold is cold. My body knows cold. She wanted to argue. Cite studies. Explain why what he described violated everything her species understood about biology. Instead, she watched him layer thermal, where with the same efficiency he brought to every task. Methodical, confident, unbothered by circumstances that should inspire fear. I'm coming with you. The words escaped before thought caught up. Donovan paused, thermal jacket half on. Outside, you need a second pair of hands for the welding. Someone has to hold the fracture closed while you apply sealant. I can manage. Safer with 2, his expression shifted, something warm replacing casual confidence. You trust me to keep you safe out there? No, but I trust that you're too stubborn to let anything happen to either of us. He grinned. Fair assessment. They suited up together, Serge in full environmental gear that made movement awkward, Donovan in thermal layers that would have been inadequate for a spring morning on most worlds. She felt ridiculous next to him. Overprotected. Weak. Your suit is appropriate, he said, reading her chromatophores again. I'm the weird one, you're the human, same thing, the airlock cycled. Cold hit like violence even through her suit. Temperature readouts scrolled past, 53 below. 54, the kind of cold that didn't just kill, it erased, reducing organic matter to frozen fragments that scattered in thin atmosphere. Donovan's breath misted. He adjusted his face covering and gestured toward the heating array. This way, they worked in relative silence, communication limited to technical necessities. Serge held fractures closed while Donovan welded, his hands steady despite cold that should have made fine motor control impossible. 3 junctions needed repair. Each took careful precision. Between the second and third, he stopped. "Look up." She did. Twin ice rings crossed overhead, catching light from their distant star and transforming it into ethereal ribbons of color that danced across frozen atmosphere. Beautiful didn't cover it. Magnificent felt inadequate. The rings painted Rimhold's sky in shades that had no names in any language she knew. "This is why I wanted you to see the caves," Donovan said. "The formations catch light like this, but closer, more intense. It's like standing inside a prism. We're in the middle of critical repairs, I know, but you need to see beautiful things sometimes, even in places like this. Especially in places like this." Her hearts did something complicated. The vector didn't romanticize environments, didn't stop repairs to admire atmospheric phenomena. They valued efficiency, logic, survival through calculated action. But standing here, suited against cold that wanted her dead, watching light paint frozen sky while a human stood beside her in inadequate gear, and invited her to see beauty, something shifted. "Third junction," she said, breaking the moment before it could break her. They finished the repairs as Rimhold's star descended toward horizon. Temperature readouts showed stabilization. The heating array would hold, probably, long enough to matter. Back inside, Serge stripped from her suit while Donovan shed thermal layers. His core temperature had dropped to 96.8, still within survivable range, still impossible. "You're shivering." He looked down at his hands, noting the minor tremors. Yeah, give me a few minutes in the warmth and I'll level out. You should be in medical." For shivering, he laughed, warm and genuine. "This is normal recovery. My body knows what to do." She pulled up his biosigns. Already his temperature was climbing, metabolic processes accelerating to generate heat and restore baseline. Within 3 minutes, he hit 97.6. Within 7, he was back to 98.6. She watched the numbers climb and felt something like vertigo. How? Practice. He stretched, joints popping, generations of humans surviving where we shouldn't. Evolution favors stubborn. This isn't evolution. This is, he closed the distance between them, not touching, but near enough that she could feel warmth radiating from his skin. Near enough to see how his pupils dilated slightly when he looked at her, how his breathing had changed from exertion recovery to something else. "You're fascinated, I'm concerned, you're both." His voice dropped softer. "I see how you look at me when you think I'm not paying attention, like you're trying to solve an equation that doesn't balance, because you don't balance. Your biology shouldn't work. Your survival strategies violate thermodynamics. You walk across frozen moons and treat lethal cold like minor inconvenience, and somehow you're fine." Her chromatophores betrayed her, rippling patterns that signaled fear and attraction tangled together until she couldn't separate them. "I scare you." "Yes, good." Her eyes widened. "Not like that." He reached up slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving her time to step back. When she didn't, his fingers brushed her shoulder where chromatophores fluttered most actively. She should have pulled away, should have maintained professional distance. Instead, she leaned into the touch. His hands were warm, impossibly warm after hours in killing cold. They moved gentle across her shoulder, following patterns her skin painted without permission. "You should be scared," he said quietly. "We're scary, deathworld survivors who refuse to die, who adapt and persist and pack bond with things that want us dead. But being scary doesn't mean being dangerous. Not to you. How can you promise that? Because you're pack." The word landed with weight she didn't fully understand. Humans used it to describe their tight social bonds, the way they formed connections that defied logic and survival instinct. She'd read the studies. Humans pack-bonded with predators, with machines, with abstract concepts given form. They couldn't help it. Apparently they pack-bonded with terrified xenobiologists too. The station groaned again, deeper this time. Metal contracting in cold that shouldn't penetrate their reinforced walls. The heating array was holding, but barely. We should check the systems. In a minute, his hand hadn't moved from her shoulder. You never answered my question. What question? The ice caves. Will you come see them? Terror and fascination warred beneath her skin. Going outside again meant trusting him to keep her safe in an environment that killed without mercy. Meant acknowledging that something had changed between professional colleagues working in isolation. Meant admitting she wanted to see what beauty looked like through his eyes. Tomorrow, she said, if the array holds, it'll hold. He smiled, confident and warm. I fixed it. Such arrogance. Such accuracy. He let his hand fall away, and she felt the absence like cold. Get some rest. Tomorrow I'll show you why this moon is worth surviving. She should have gone to her quarters. Should have run analysis on the repairs, checked system integrity, maintained the professional distance that had eroded somewhere between his impossible biology and her treacherous chromatophores. Instead, she stood in the staging area long after he left, watching biosign readouts that showed a human sleeping peacefully in his quarters. Core temperature steady, heart rate slow and even. A deathworld survivor treating a frozen moon like home. And tomorrow, she'd let him lead her into ice caves that probably violated several safety protocols. Because pack, apparently, meant trusting someone to keep you safe even when every instinct screamed danger. Because she'd stopped seeing just impossible biology and started seeing the person who smiled at frozen beauty and fixed heating, arrays with stubborn confidence, and somehow made her feel less alone on a moon that killed without mercy. The Vector valued logic, but Serge was beginning to understand that some things defied logic completely. Outside, Rimhold's twin rings painted the sky in colors that had no names, and somewhere in the frozen wastes, ice caves waited with beauty she couldn't imagine. Tomorrow she'd let herself see. Morning on Rimhold meant a slight brightening of perpetual twilight. Serge woke to alarm indicators flashing across her tablet. The heating array was holding, but barely. Efficiency had dropped another 8% overnight. She found Donovan in the equipment bay, already suited up. Ready for the caves, the array will last another 12 hours minimum. His confidence should have irritated her. Instead, it felt steady, grounding. We have time. You need to see this before we evacuate. Evacuate. If efficiency keeps dropping, yeah, but not today. Today we explore. She wanted to argue, cite protocols. Instead, she pulled on her environmental suit and followed him into the airlock. Outside, Rimhold's surface stretched endless and hostile. Wind had picked up overnight, carrying ice crystals that caught light and made the air shimmer. Temperature readouts showed 56 below. Donovan led the way across permafrost that crunched beneath their boots. His breath misted steady, unconcerned. Serge monitored his biosigns compulsively. Core temperature 97.9. He was running slightly cool, but still functional. How far? 20 minutes. In this cold, he glanced back, and even through his face covering she could see the smile. Trust me, that's what concerns me. But she followed. Across frozen plains, around ice formations that rose like sculptures, past thermal vents that belched steam into thin atmosphere. Donovan moved with purpose, sure-footed on terrain that could kill with a single misstep. The cave entrance appeared suddenly, a dark mouth in the ice exhaling mist. Donovan pulled chem lights from his pack and cracked them. Eerie blue glow spilled across frozen walls. Stay close. The passage narrows for a bit. They descended into darkness barely held back by chem light. The passage pressed close, ice walls glittering with embedded minerals. Serge's suit scraped against stone. Her breathing echoed harsh in her helmet. Then the passage opened. She stopped. Couldn't help it. The cavern stretched vast, ceiling lost in shadows 50 meters overhead. But the ice, light caught in frozen formations and shattered into impossible colors. Blues deeper than ocean, greens that sang, purples that ached. The ice had formed in layers, minerals trapped between, creating natural prisms that bent light into spectrum variations that had no names. Donovan moved to the center, placing more chem lights to maximize refraction. The cavern transformed. Color danced across every surface, reflected and amplified until standing here felt like existing inside a star being born. You were right, Serge said quietly. Footage wouldn't capture this. He turned to her, backlit by impossible beauty. Some things you have to experience. Her chromatophores rippled beneath the suit where he couldn't see them. Good thing, because they were painting patterns that would have embarrassed her, attraction mixed with awe, fear tangled with fascination. How did you find this? Luck, curiosity, stubborn refusal to stay inside when there might be something worth seeing. Very human, very me. He moved closer, gesturing to formations that rose from the cavern floor like frozen flames. See that crystallization pattern? It suggests water flow at some point, which means this moon might have had liquid water in its history. That changes everything we thought we knew about this system's evolution. She listened to him explain geological processes, watched his hands gesture with enthusiasm barely contained by thermal gloves, and felt something shift deeper. He wasn't just confident and warm and impossibly resilient. He was genuinely fascinated by the universe around him, excited by discovery, even when discovery happened in places that wanted him dead. The Vector valued knowledge, but they pursued it through careful analysis and calculated risk. Donovan pursued it with his whole being, throwing himself into frozen darkness because beauty and understanding might wait there. Your species is insane, probably. He smiled, removing one glove to trace patterns in the ice. But we're productively insane. What are you doing, feeling the texture? Understanding requires more than visual data. You'll get frostbite. In about 3 minutes, yeah, I have time. She watched his bare fingers trace ice formations, saw him wince slightly as cold bit deeper, and understood something fundamental. He knew the risks, understood them better than she did, probably. He just decided they were worth it. That's enough, she said. Glove back on, bossy. Concerned, same thing. He replaced the glove, flexing fingers to restore circulation. His biosigns showed core temperature had dropped to 97.4, still functional, but trending wrong. We should head back. Few more minutes. There's something I want to show you in the deeper chamber. Donovan, please. The word landed soft, vulnerable. She'd never heard him ask for anything before. He fixed problems, led expeditions, moved through frozen moons with stubborn confidence. Asking felt foreign on his tongue. 5 minutes. They descended deeper into the cave system, following passages that twisted between ice walls that pressed close enough to touch on both sides. Chemlight cast eerie shadows. Temperature dropped further. 62 below. Serge's suit compensated. Donovan just kept walking. The passage opened into a smaller chamber. Ice formations here grew differently, delicate, branching, almost organic. They reminded Serge of neural networks, synapses frozen mid-fire. Donovan stopped in the center, turning slowly. This is where I come when the isolation gets heavy. You come here? Regularly, 3 times since we landed. His voice had changed. Less confident, more honest. The station feels small sometimes. Too warm, too safe. Out here, I remember why I do this work. Because you're drawn to places that kill people. Because beauty exists everywhere, even in the worst places. Especially in the worst places. He touched one of the formations, gentle despite the glove. Growing up in Minnesota taught me that. Winter could be brutal, but it was also gorgeous. The hardest seasons made the most stunning landscapes. She moved closer, carefully navigating uneven floor. You're not just talking about weather. No, something in his tone caught her. Vulnerability she hadn't heard before. What happened in Minnesota? He was quiet for long enough that she thought he wouldn't answer. Then I lost someone, my partner. We were ice climbing, experienced climbers, all the right gear. Conditions changed fast. He fell. I couldn't reach him in time, I'm sorry. It's why I understand cold, really understand it. Not just the biology and adaptation, but what it takes, what it costs. He turned to face her, eyes meeting hers through helmet glass. I'm not fearless out here, Serge. I'm just willing to pay the price for things that matter. Her heart's clenched. This was the complexity she'd been missing. The weight beneath his confidence, the calculation behind his risks. He understood danger intimately, chose it anyway. Is that why you volunteer for missions like this? To frozen moons that kill people, partially. Also because someone has to, and because I'm good at surviving where I shouldn't. The heating array alarm cut through her helmet comm. Warning tones, urgent but not critical. Serge pulled up diagnostics. Efficiency had dropped another 6% in the last 30 minutes. Temperature in the station was 41 degrees and falling. We need to go back. Now. Agreed. They moved quickly through the passages, retracing steps with chem lights marking the way. Serge's mind raced ahead to repairs, system checks, emergency protocols if the array failed completely. Then Donovan stopped. The passage shouldn't narrow here. It hadn't on the way in, but ahead ice had shifted, settled, blocked their path with a wall that hadn't existed an hour ago. Alternate route. He pulled up his mapping data, studying paths with increasing concern. This was the only safe passage. Everything else is unstable or too narrow for your suit. How unstable? Collapse risk unstable. Perfect. Serge ran calculations. They had enough air for 3 hours. Plenty of time to find another way out. Except the temperature was dropping, the station was failing, and they were trapped in a frozen cave system that was actively trying to kill them. Can we break through? Donovan examined the ice wall, pressing gloved hands against it. Too thick. We'd need cutting equipment we don't have. He turned, studying the passage they'd come from. We go back, find the branching tunnel near the second chamber. It's narrower but might work. Lead the way. They backtracked quickly. The branching tunnel was narrow, barely wide enough for her suit. Donovan squeezed through, then helped guide her. Ice scraped against her helmet. Her breathing sounded harsh, panicked. Easy. His voice came steady through the calm. Slow movements. Don't rush, I'm stuck. No, you're snug. There's a difference. Move your left shoulder forward, rotate slightly. She tried. The suit caught on ice that shouldn't be there, pressing close enough that claustrophobia bloomed sharp and immediate. I can't, yes you can. His hand found hers through the ice, squeezing. I've got you. Left shoulder forward, now rotate. She forced herself to move. The suit shifted, scraped, then suddenly broke free. She nearly fell into the wider passage beyond, Donovan catching her. Through her helmet, she saw his face pale, breath coming harder than it should. Your biosigns, elevated heart rate, slight stress response. He smiled, but it looked tight. I'm not great with confined spaces. You didn't mention that, didn't seem relevant. You just talked me through a passage that terrifies you. Someone had to. His core temperature had dropped to 96.8. His body was fighting to maintain function against cold that pressed closer with every minute underground. We need to get you warm. Station first. Me second. Donovan, I'll survive. His confidence had returned, but she could see the cost now. The way his hands shook slightly, how he moved with careful deliberation instead of casual ease. But if that array fails completely, we both freeze. Fair point. They navigated the remaining passages quickly, emerged into Rimhold's perpetual twilight with relief that tasted like desperation. The station waited in the distance, lights dimmer than they should be. The walk back felt endless. Donovan's pace had slowed, movements less fluid. His biosigns showed 95.6. Hypothermia threshold for humans was 95. He was touching the edge. Serge grabbed his arm. Stop. We're almost there. You need heat. Now she pulled emergency thermal packs from her suit's storage, cracked them, and pressed them against his jacket. Steam rose where chemical heat met frozen fabric. This is unnecessary. Shut up and let me help you. He went quiet. Let her fuss with thermal packs and biosign checks and adjustments that probably made minimal difference. But when she looked up, his expression had gentled. Thank you. Your pack. Apparently that means not letting you freeze. Apparently. They made it to the airlock. Inside, blessed warmth felt like forgiveness. Donovan stripped thermal gear with shaking hands, movement uncoordinated. Serge monitored his recovery. Core temperature 95.2, still dropping. Medical bay, now. I need to check the array. I'll check the array. You need warming protocols. For once, he didn't argue. She got him to medical, activated the warming station, and watched his temperature slowly climb. 95.4, 96, 96.8. The station groaned around them. Temperature had dropped to 38 degrees. The heating array was failing faster than projections suggested. Serge ran diagnostics from the medical bay terminal. The picture looked grim. 3 new stress fractures, 2 critical junctions offline completely. They had maybe 6 hours before total system failure. I can fix it. She turned. Donovan had sat up, color returning to his face. You're still hypothermic. I'm at 97.1. That's functional. He swung his legs off the medical platform. And you can't fix this alone. I can manage. No, you can't. His voice stayed gentle but firm. The repairs require someone who can work in that cold without environmental suits. Someone whose body can handle exposure long enough to weld critical systems. Someone human. Yeah. She wanted to argue, cite medical protocols. Instead, she pulled up the repair schematics. 2 hours minimum in 58 below temperatures. You'll need continuous warming breaks. I'll work fast. Donovan, Serge. He moved closer, still unsteady but determined. I know the risks. Know them better than you do. But if we don't fix this, we both die. At least this way we have a chance. The logic was sound. She hated it anyway. I'm coming with you. To hold fractures closed. To monitor your biosigns and force you inside when you push too far. Deal. They suited up again. Outside had grown worse, wind howling, ice crystals reducing visibility. Temperature readouts showed 59 below and falling, as Rimhold's star descended toward the horizon. The heating array sprawled across the station's southern exposure, a mess of fractured piping and failed junctions. Donovan worked with focused efficiency, welding one junction while Serge held fractures closed. Her suit protected her. He had thermal layers and stubborn determination. 30 minutes in, his core temperature hit 96.4. Break now, one more junction break, or I'm physically dragging you inside. He looked at her, saw she meant it, and nodded. They cycled through the airlock. He stood near the heating vents, shaking hard now, while his body fought to restore function. 15 minutes of warming, then back outside. They repeated the cycle 4 times: repair, retreat, recover, repeat. Each time his recovery took longer, his temperature dropped faster. On the 5th cycle, Serge watched his biosigns hit 95.2 and made a decision. That's enough. We find another solution. There is no other solution. 2 more junctions and we're done. You're hypothermic, I'm functional. Barely. Enough. He said it sharp, stressed, and immediately looked apologetic. Sorry, I need to finish this. Why? Her chromatophores flashed frustration. Why risk yourself when we could call for evacuation, wait for rescue? Because by the time rescue arrives, the station will be frozen solid and months of research will be destroyed. Because I don't quit when things get hard. He pulled thermal gear back on with shaking hands. And because you're here and I'm not leaving you in a failing station. The words landed heavy. You barely know me, I know enough. His brown eyes met hers, honest and unguarded. I know you volunteered for this mission knowing it might kill you because discovery matters more than comfort. I know you're brilliant and careful and braver than you think. I know your chromatophores turn purple when you're frustrated and silver when you're fascinated, and I know, he stopped. What? That I want you to survive this. More than the research, more than the station. You, her heart stuttered. The Vector didn't do this, didn't form attachments that defied logic, didn't value individuals over data. But standing here, watching a human risk hypothermia to protect her and months of work, she understood why his species called it pack bonding. It felt terrifying. It felt right. 2 more junctions, she said. Then we're done whether it's finished or not. Deal. They went back outside. Donovan worked with single-minded focus, hands steady despite core temperature dropping to 94.8. Serge held fractures closed and monitored biosigns compulsively. Final junction, almost there. His words came slower, slightly slurred. Hurry. He sealed the last fracture, applied sealant, and stumbled. Serge caught him, feeling him sag against her suit. Inside. Now, the airlock cycle felt eternal. Once through, Donovan collapsed near the warming vents. His lips had gone blue, skin pale, tremors violent. Medical warming protocols initiated. Serge stripped his thermal layers, activated emergency heating blankets, monitored vital signs that looked increasingly wrong. Core temperature 93.6. Cardiac rhythm irregular. Consciousness fading. Stay with me. Cold, so cold, I know, you're warming. Systems are working. Stay conscious. She adjusted heating parameters, added thermal wraps, tracked his slow recovery with relief that tasted like panic. 94. 94.8. 95.6. The station's ambient temperature stabilized at 42 degrees. The array was holding. He'd done it. Fixed the heating system while nearly freezing himself to death. 96.4. Color returned to his face. Tremors eased, his eyes focused. Did it work? Yes, she didn't trust her voice for more. Good, you almost died. Almost doesn't count. This isn't funny. Little bit funny. He smiled, weak but genuine. Your chromatophores are showing concern. Never seen that pattern before. Stop analyzing my emotional displays and focus on recovering. Can't help it. You're fascinating, infuriating. That too, she wanted to yell at him. Cite statistics about hypothermia risks, lecture about proper safety protocols. Instead, she pulled up a chair and sat close enough to monitor his vitals while he recovered. They stayed like that for an hour. Him warming slowly, her watching biosigns climb back toward baseline. The station hummed around them, heating restored, systems stabilizing. Finally, his core temperature hit 97.6. How do you feel? Like I got tackled by Minnesota winter. He sat up carefully, but alive. Your species is insane. We've established that. You risked severe hypothermia for research equipment. I risked it for you. The words hung between them. Honest. Vulnerable, terrifying. Why? Because you matter. His voice dropped softer. Because somewhere between watching you analyze biosigns and listening to you lecture about protocols and seeing you face your fear in those caves, I started caring more about your survival than my own. Pack bonding? Yeah. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed her shoulder where chromatophores painted patterns beneath her shirt. What do they mean? These colors, they signal emotional states. Involuntary biological response. What are they saying now? That I'm terrified and fascinated, and something else I don't have words for. Good. His thumb traced gentle patterns across her skin, following silver that bloomed into gold, fear transforming into something warmer. Because I'm all those things too. This defies logic. Most good things do. She should have pulled away, maintained professional distance. Instead, she leaned into the touch, feeling warmth that had nothing to do with heating protocols. You're still recovering from hypothermia. I'm aware. We should maintain proper boundaries. Probably. Neither of them moved. Her chromatophores painted emotions she couldn't hide, attraction mixed with terror, fascination tangled with something deeper that felt like falling. Donovan watched the patterns shift, his expression soft with understanding. I scare you. Yes, I won't hurt you. I know, that's not what scares me. She met his eyes. I scare myself. The way I feel when you're close. The way I wanted to drag you inside when your temperature dropped. The way I stopped thinking like a vector and started feeling like Pack. Yes, good. He pulled her closer, careful and deliberate. Her chromatophores flared bright, painting skin in colors that meant surrender and acceptance and trust. This is illogical, completely. We barely know each other. We know enough. His lips brushed hers, gentle question. She answered by closing the distance, kissing him with 6 months of isolation and weeks of building tension, finally breaking through careful control. He tasted like warmth, like stubborn survival and impossible biology, and the kind of confidence that came from choosing to live instead of just existing. His hands moved to her face, cradling carefully, like she was precious instead of terrifying. When they finally broke apart, his eyes searched hers. Your chromatophores, I know, they're gold. What does gold mean? She smiled, genuine and unguarded. It means I'm Pack too. Outside, Rimhold's perpetual twilight painted frozen wastes in shades of blue and silver. Twin rings crossed overhead, eternal and beautiful. The heating array hummed with restored function, keeping them warm against cold that wanted them dead. But inside the station, wrapped in each other's warmth, 2 researchers from species that shouldn't work together discovered that impossible biology ran both directions. Sometimes the scariest thing wasn't surviving the frozen moon. It was letting yourself care about someone else's survival more than your own. And sometimes that was exactly what made surviving worthwhile.